Welcome to the Happiness Project again. I'm really excited to be here today because we're going to continue our talk about religion and happiness. I'm here with Rabbi Ilana Schwartzman. Okay, sorry I said that wrong. And it's kind of fun. Ilana has just taken over this congregation and is fairly new to the Utah area too, so big life changes for you.
Yeah, absolutely. But so far so good, and happiness away.
Any big culture shock? You moved from Buffalo, right?
I moved from Buffalo, so they say there that the weather is cold but the people are warm. But you know, so far so good here. The people are warm and very welcoming, and everybody's been very kind. People wave here.
Yeah.
Everybody says hello. It's a very interesting thing.
So I have to ask.
Yeah.
In religious, like becoming a religious teacher or spiritual leader or something like that, it's not really something most people want to do when they're growing up. Like most people, like, I want to be Batman.
I wanted to be a bubble or maybe a butterfly. Yeah.
So how did you get into this?
Being a bubble or a butterfly is not probably the most practical thing in life. My mother said you still have to eat. I was going to be a high school English teacher, really loved literature, but found that it really wasn't going to be the right path for me, a little too much governmental control and that sort of thing. But my father is a rabbi, and his father was a rabbi, and my grandfather's brother was a rabbi, and so I spent a lot of time fighting, didn't want to be a rabbi. And then at some point I stopped fighting, realized that if you love literature, then some of the best literature that there is biblical and post-biblical, and that I love to work with people, I love to sing and to pray and all of these sorts of things, and to help people in their times of need and to be there at their times of most joy, and so it really got to be my opportunity to do that. That's great. Yeah.
Do you find, like, being a woman, do you find that's actually easier to be?
I find that it's easier insofar as there are a lot of back doors for women, insofar as I served a congregation in Florida for a while, and the men would be out front discussing whatever it was they were discussing, all their wives were in the kitchen, and so I'd sit and talk to their wives, and we'd get everything done. Not to say that men can't get things done, but
the reality of the situation.
So there was, it has its advantages and disadvantages. More often, I get a lot of flack because I'm young than because I'm a woman, so that people say, well, she's only however many years old, what does she know about death, or what does she know about, trouble and that sort of thing, and so sort of to convince them that my own life experience is not the only thing I draw from.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you've been around.
Exactly. It talks to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, that's funny that you mentioned that, like the women are the ones who get the things done.
Yeah.
I'm finding that's how it is and everything. A lot of the guys that I'm asking, I ask, hey, what does happiness mean to you? And you get the deer in the headlights thing.
Really?
I think, men don't even know what they want at Ben and Jerry's, let alone what they want out of life and stuff. But the women I ask, hey, what does happiness mean? They're right on it.
Really?
They know everything about it. So I don't know. It's because men are just emotionally dead inside.
It's not true. It's not true.
When life hits us and stuff like that, and depression runs rampant. I don't know if you're familiar with this, but here in Utah, we lead the nation in antidepressants. And it's like a big step between us and number two. So there's kind of relevant here in the States.
Really
so when you find depression, do you ever turn to your faith or anything like that?
I do. I think there's a lot to lean on in terms of recognizing that a lot of Judaism is about community, about realizing that you're not alone, about realizing that all of the pressure doesn't have to be on you personally, and that you can rely on other people and that sort of thing. And of course there's the idea of also being able to rely on God. And I think that a lot of depression stems from anxiety, and this idea that we have to be perfect, or that we have to get everything right the first time. And I think that Judaism teaches us to be very forgiving of ourselves and of others, and at least once a year we get the opportunity to say, I'm very fallible, and let's start over again. And so I think that helps.
I'm messed up, you're messed up. That's all.
Well, there's a prayer that says, behold, we are not so arrogant as to say we have not sinned. What kind of person thinks that they're perfect all the time? And I think that this idea that we have in the United States in particular, that we have to, that that we have these measuring sticks rather than our own personal journeys is detrimental to a lot of people.
Absolutely. Well, okay, one thing I find going on in my faith, I'm a Buddhist. Right now, there's kind of a lot of tension going on with, like, China and, like, the occupation of Burma and stuff like that, and so...
Judaism has nothing like that.
Yeah, nothing like that. So, well, like, in Buddhism, we fight about how do we not be resentful towards the Chinese? How do we not be hateful and painful and stuff like that? And, with Judaism, you obviously have the history.
Yeah.
How do you let that go? And so...
Well, there are different ways of relating to it. One is that we don't ever forget, actually. We can forgive, but we never actually let go. It's important for us to remember in our faith because in Passover time we say, not in one age has a people sought our destruction, but in every age. And so it's one of those things that we're very historically bound Jewishly. And at the same time, it's important to realize that people are people, that we're all created in God's image, and that, everybody's got an issue that they're dealing with, whether we're talking about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, where we do have to remember that we're all human beings, that we're all God's children, that we pray for peace multiple times a day, and that it's not enough just to pray, that we actually have to go about doing peace.
Absolutely.
And at the same time, we have other historical conflicts that we talk about, whether it's as far back as, the Assyrians or the expulsion from Spain or the Nazis or anything like that. But it's important for us to remember is that we have survived, that we are still people, and that we still have God in our lives.
I find that, like, if I think about those things, like when somebody cuts me off in traffic or something like that, it's kind of like, this is kind of small in perspective.
Yeah. Oh, it would be nice if we could think that way. Unfortunately, we probably still curse at the people who cut us off in traffic.
Well, for me, it's the vending machines, like where you put the dollar in and it just keeps taking it and putting it in your mouth. Oh, that makes me so
Yeah, perspective-wise, I think we can give up the dollar. But,
It's okay. I don't need the Diet Coke.
Exactly.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to add about this? Or?
Well, I think that there is a piece of happiness that is about personal fulfillment, and I just think that it's important to remember that we don't find fulfillment and I just actually gave a sermon this last week, and our teeth whitening or our jeans or our shopping and our consumerist culture. I mean, it's important to keep our economy going and all of that, but what's more important is to find a more whole fulfillment and to be more holistic in our lives and to find peace within ourselves and with God and with the rest of humanity, rather than thinking about how cute our shoes are. Although it helps to have cute shoes. So.
That's something different.
Yeah. That's not religious. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, thank you so much for being here. Best of luck with the move and the new congregation and everything like that.
Best of luck with your happiness project.
And, I know moving to Utah can be a bit of a culture shock, so good luck with that.
I will keep learning.
But thank you so much for being here with us.
Yeah.
Thank you for being the Happiness Project. Now go find out.
Shalom.